Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really hard look at something critical, the infrastructure that, well, literally keeps the modern world spinning, operational technology, OT. We're definitely moving beyond the usual corporate cybersecurity stuff today, your laptop, the server room.
Right.
We're diving into let's say, the gritty, real-world systems controlling physical processes, power grids, assembly lines, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and our mission here is to really get into the unique cyber risks. We're talking industrial manufacturing, critical infrastructure environments. We're using some analysis that details these rising threats and some strategic models for defending against them.
And it's crucial, isn't it? You, the listener, need to grasp why securing, say, a physical system where actual human safety is on the line is just fundamentally and, frankly, dangerously different from just securing data.
It really is. That distinction, that's the core conflict right there. In traditional IT security, information technology, the big worry is confidentiality, right?
Yeah.
Don't let data get stolen or leaked.
Sure, standard stuff.
But with OT security, the hardware, the software actually controlling production, that whole priority list just flips upside down.
Flips completely. How so?
Well, think about OT's core job, production, making things, moving things, generating power. So the primary concerns, they become safety, reliability, and availability. Number one, safety.
Yeah, okay.
If an attacker gets into an OT environment, they're usually not after customer lists. They want to cause a production shutdown or a utility failure or, worst case scenario, a physical safety incident. Protecting that physical process, that's the absolute highest bar.
Okay, so let's define OT a bit more then, because when I hear industrial tech, I immediately picture like a giant power plant chimney. But the source material we looked at suggests it's much closer to home than that.
It absolutely is. So operational technology is basically any hardware and software that monitors or controls a physical process. Think industrial control systems, ICS, SCADA systems, PLCs, those programmable logic controllers, DCS, distributed control systems.
The brains behind the machines.
Exactly. They're the governors on engines, they're the valves and pipelines, the robots on the factory floor.
And this is where the analysis really broadens the scope, right, into what it calls the hidden OT, stuff we might not even think about as OT.
Precisely. We really have to include smart building systems here.
Like
your building's HVAC controls, automated lighting systems, even CCTV cameras, physical access controllers, keycard systems.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That is all operational technology. It manages the physical environment, and crucially, it's increasingly connected to the corporate network.
Right, so the lines are blurring. And what's fascinating, or maybe scary, is that a compromised building management system or like a hacked keycard system in a big office building that could disrupt operations or give an attacker a foothold just as easily as hitting a factory control system directly.
It's as easily. It's the same fundamental concept technology managing the physical world, just maybe at a different scale. But the risk is analogous.
And that connection, that convergence between the corporate IT side and the physical control network side.
That's exactly where the attack surface has just exploded. It's the key linkage point.
Okay, so given that context, let's unpack the threats. What are the really specific high-stakes attack vectors we're seeing target this sensitive environment?
Well, number one, unfortunately, still remains ransomware and malware specifically aimed at production.
Still ransomware, even here.
Oh, yes. Threat actors are highly motivated. They know that hitting an OT environment causing a production halt, maybe a safety scare, forces a much quicker payout, often a much higher payout than just stealing some files. They're hitting the organization's core ability to function. It's lifeblood.
But hang on, these attacks, they don't usually start right on the factory floor computer, do they? How does the malware actually get to the assembly line controller? Are they like sneaking into the plant?
No, almost never directly like that. The initial breach usually happens way over on the much softer corporate IT network.
The usual suspects.
Exactly. A successful phishing email, maybe an exploited vulnerability on a server that wasn't patched. Standard IT breach stuff. But once they're inside that IT environment, the attackers, they take their time. They move laterally, probing, looking for that weak connection point, that bridge between IT and the OT systems.
Which means your security strategy has to be unified, right?
Yeah.
You can't just have the IT guys worrying about servers and the OT guys worrying about PLCs separately.
You absolutely can't. Traditional IT endpoint security tools, they often just don't run on these industrial devices.
Right.
They're not designed for it.
Right.
So if that initial detection is missed over on the IT side, the whole physical operation downstream is suddenly wide open.
And that difficulty getting modern security tools onto these systems, that leads right into the next big challenge, doesn't it? Legacy systems.
Oh, yes. The massive installed base of legacy and, frankly, often insecure by design systems.
These are devices built years, maybe decades ago.
Decades, easily. Designed for pure function and incredible longevity, but often with minimal, if any, security features baked in from the start.
And the life cycles are just enormous compared to IT. We swap phones every couple of years, laptops every 4 or 5. But these industrial controllers, they might be expected to run reliably for 20, 30 years or more.
That's exactly right. And here's a really surprising fact I pulled from the sources. A study found that every single OT product family they inspected,
Every single one.
every single one had at least one trivial vulnerability. Not some complex zero-day thing, but simple, known, often easy-to-exploit flaws.
Wow. Okay, trivial is not a word you want to hear next to critical infrastructure vulnerability. Is that just negligence or is it deeper?
Well, it's mostly the latter, I think. They were engineered purely for reliability and uptime. Availability was king. Security wasn't really on the radar back then. And the killer is, because they control critical production, you often simply cannot take them offline to patch them.
Right. You can't shut down the city's water treatment plant for 3 days for a firmware update. The impact is too high.
Precisely. So the security strategy has to accept upfront that the hardware itself might be static, potentially insecure, for its entire multi-decade lifespan.
Yeah.
You have to work around it.
So, okay, you can't easily fix the device itself, so you try to build walls around it, control the environment. But that environment is getting messier, you said, because of this IT-OT convergence. Doesn't connecting everything just make those walls kind of porous?
It certainly raises the stakes significantly. Connecting those OT networks to corporate nets, or maybe allowing remote access for monitoring or maintenance, every connection creates a potential pivot point. Every time an IT system or even some third-party IoT sensor shares connectivity with a critical control system, you've basically opened a new potential door for malware or a remote attacker.
And speaking of third parties, we often focus on internal security, but what about the vendors, the suppliers?
That's a huge one. Supply chain and third-party risk.
Yeah.
OT environments rely so heavily on external vendors for specialized hardware, for software updates, and very often for remote maintenance access, someone dialing in to tweak a setting.
And attackers know this.
They absolutely know this. Exploiting those vendors who might, have less mature security practices than the end client is a prime way to gain entry. So managing vendor credentials, watching that external access like a hawk becomes essential.
Okay. And the last big challenge area, visibility.
Yeah, visibility and incident response. In IT, we're used to having agents everywhere, constant log collection, network traffic analysis.
Right.
But if an OT system can't tolerate downtime for a patch, you can bet it often can't tolerate a heavy security monitoring agent either. It might impact performance or stability.
Create blind spots.
Massive blind spots, often persisting for years, because you can't easily interrupt these systems for deep security scans or monitoring deployment. Achieving proactive visibility, just knowing what's happening on the network and having a really detailed practice incident readiness plan that becomes a huge differentiator for any specialized security provider working in this space. You had to see without touching, essentially.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, connected to the bigger picture, it's crystal clear that just applying generic IT security thinking here won't cut it.
Not even close.
Addressing these unique high-stakes threats needs something else. A specialized approach focused on defense and resilience, but tailored to the weird constraints of OT.
Exactly right. And the first step, it's always foundational. Discovery and segmentation.
Know what you've got.
You absolutely cannot secure what you don't know you have. So that means a really thorough inventory. All the assets, from the main SCADA system right down to those hidden OT things like the smart lights and the door control.
Okay, map everything out. Then what? Build the wall.
Then you build the walls, yes.
Yeah.
You have to rigorously segment the IT network from the OT network. Create strong demilitarized zones, DMZs, clear zone boundaries. This is your primary defense against that lateral movement we talked about. If an attacker pops IT via phishing, good segmentation stops them, or at least dramatically slows them down, from easily jumping over into the industrial controls.
Okay, so segmentation buys you time, maybe stops the attack cold. But what about those vulnerable old systems, the ones you said we can't patch? How do you live with something you know is insecure?
That brings us to step 2. Continuous controls and, crucially, compensating measures.
Compensating controls.
Yeah, since patching is often off the table, you rely on other controls layered on top or around the vulnerable system to, well, compensate for the inherent weakness. This means things like continuous network monitoring, anomaly detection, specifically watching the industrial traffic for anything weird, unusual SCADA commands, a device changing state unexpectedly.
So instead of fixing the flaw, you're watching constantly for anyone using the flaw or any sign that something's gone wrong. It's behavioral.
It's entirely behavioral and vigilance-based, exactly. You're looking for deviations from the known good baseline, and you absolutely need strong access controls on top of that. Least privileged access people only get access to what they need. Role-based access control. And mandatory multi-factor authentication, MFA, especially for any remote vendor access. These compensating controls are how you build confidence around those static, unpatchable systems.
Makes sense. And step 3, is that about what happens when things do go wrong?
It is. It's all about incident readiness. An OT incident, it can escalate much faster and obviously have much greater physical consequences than a typical data breach.
Stakes are higher.
Way higher.
Yeah.
So you absolutely must develop OT-specific incident response plans. The source materials really hammer this point. Run regular simulated tabletop exercises, drills, and critically, these drills need to involve not just the IT security folks, but the plant managers, the engineers, the physical operations staff.
Because they're the ones dealing with the physical side if a system shuts down unexpectedly?
Exactly. The response team isn't just restoring servers. They might be dealing with emergency shutdown procedures, physical safety protocols. It's a different world.
So expertise really matters here then. It's not just about knowing firewalls and intrusion detection. It's knowing the industrial standards like ISA EC 6443.
62443 is key.
And understanding the actual physics, the process you're protecting.
It absolutely is. That deep specialization is what allows an organization or a provider to be a true strategic risk partner, because they can demonstrate they genuinely understand the client's operational lifeblood. The whole conversation shifts.
How so?
It shifts from, we secure your laptops, to, we ensure your production line keeps running safely and continuously. You're protecting the assembly line, the power generation, not just the file server. That's a much higher value proposition.
So wrapping up this deep dive, it seems the big takeaway is that cyber risks in these industrial OT environments are uniquely high stakes, driven by all that legacy gear, the absolute intolerance for downtime, and crucially, the real-world physical consequences if an attack succeeds.
And specialization, really digging into the nuances of OT, seems like the only truly effective defense, especially against sophisticated attackers and this ever-increasing IT-OT convergence. When your corporate network starts talking to your control network, the old cybersecurity rulebook just doesn't fully apply anymore. The game changes.
And the final thought we want to leave you with, and this comes straight from the source material we reviewed, it's quite provocative. Think about this. The very same kinds of severe cyber risks that threaten massive power plants or giant factories, they also apply directly to those often overlooked smart building systems.
The lights, the HVAC, the access control.
Right. In our offices, our campuses, maybe even creeping into our homes. So as all our environments become more integrated with this kind of connected infrastructure, what does this industrial level threat awareness really imply about the level of vulnerability we should expect and maybe demand protection for in the places we live and work every single day?
Yeah, something to definitely think about next time you walk into a smart building. What's really connected behind the scenes?